GM. Give me just a second, guys. I'm going to tweet this out, let everybody know that we are live. Oh, shoot, dude. I do not know what I just did. Oh, just messed up my back a little bit, but we're okay. It's part of getting old. Um, so, yeah, I'm going to tweet this out here in a second. In the meantime, if you guys want to join the space as a speaker, feel free to hit that request button. If not, I can easily talk all day. So I am happy to go through and just talk about what I'm seeing across the NFT landscape, as well as everything dealing with stonks as well. But we do these every single Friday. This is the 91st consecutive week that we have done these in a row. The stonks are obviously older than that. But yeah, we have done these spaces consecutively for 91 weeks now, which, honestly, looking back on how they all started is pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, give me 1 second. Let me tweet this out and we'll get going. All right, done. And one thing I'm going to do, if you guys wouldn't mind, I pin that up to the top. So throughout the episode, I may ask a few questions, do something like that. Feel free during that, whenever I do bring up that type of stuff, drop comments in there. And even better, if you could drop that a like and a retweet as well, that would be amazing. But it's been an interesting week overall. Lots of stuff happening across the market. Past couple days, just watching price action. It's been funny how quickly people flip sentiment. Like Bitcoin itself, I'm looking at it, man. Bitcoin's not down, way too much, right? Like it's 36.5. Which, if you were to say that it was at 36.5 midway through October, you'd be ecstatic, right? So 36.5, we're only down like a little over $1,000 off the highs. And yeah, it just it feels like the major red candles right now. There's just a lot of PTSD from the bear market. And a lot of people, anytime they see red, they think that's it, right? Like the run that we have had is too good to be true. It's over. We're done. Um, and it's easy to buy into that sentiment too, whenever you see it on the timeline. I, on the other hand, do not think that it's over. I still think 40K is a magnet right now. I think we're going higher. I think there's a lot of room left to run in the alts. And I really think the NFT marketplace as a whole has a ton of moving to do coming up on the horizon. I think there are a lot of bullish catalysts when you look at it. And I'm getting pretty hyped about what this next year is going to look like. Crow, what's going on, my man? Thank you for coming up here and joining me. Appreciate it.
I think you're up here by yourself. I mean, I know you can just keep talking and talking. I figured I'd say hi.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I mean, I prefer a conversation over me rambling, but I'm good at rambling, so I could always make it work.
Hey, I took a couple of trades for the first time.
First time ever, or first time in a long time?
Nah, like I never took a leverage trade before in my life before yesterday.
Crow, get off the crack. It's not too late.
That's all right, man. I'm gonna be successful.
Hey, that's awesome. So, what'd you take?
I've been messing around with Doge and a little Soul.
Doge and a little Soul. Okay. So, what's the game plan with them?
I'm in Doge right now. My stop loss is at break even. I need Doji to go to like 90 cents, one candle.
Dude, same. I'm long about 4 mil Doge right now. So if it could just go up like 10 cents even, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So as long as it doesn't go back beneath like 7 cents, I should be okay. But yeah, we'll see. I'm just sitting there hoping. Dude, I've been in this position for so long, watching some other stuff take off that I'm like, man, please, Lord, like, give me give me this move. Right? Like, I have been patient. I have held the conviction for it. Just let it happen. So, we'll see.
It's engaging, man. It's fun.
So who
It's a
was
lot
it
of
that
fun.
got you into it? What was it that triggered you? And you're like, you know what? All of a sudden, one day, I'm going to go ahead and pick this up and try it out.
Well, I mean, it's been on the list, right? Like I've been in here for a while.
Was it Vlad?
I'm in this project. I would say like just the room 110 crew. Right? I'm
Yeah.
watching the leverage trade Discord, so I'm just watching. I'm like, all right, like I need to learn before the bull. So like time's now.
Fair enough, man. Just be careful with it, and remember, I'll say this, bro. When I first got into it, and I didn't know what I was doing, um, I think what got me hooked. It's like when you go to Vegas and you get a win, right? Like I think what got me hooked is I got one quick win, and then, bro, after that, I paid my tuition. I lost that win, and I paid my tuition even more so before I ever made any real money from leverage trading. And from the sounds of it, though, Vlad and the Room 110 guys are doing it the right way. So, I think it's important to have that solid base as far as people like that can kind of help walk you through the process is a good thing.
And I've been seeing the mental side of it, right? I've been following crypto Twitter forever.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You see the ups and the downs and the conversation everybody has. So it's mental, right? It's easy to say that, but I can see how it can get funny too.
Exactly, man. It definitely can, but it's definitely an interesting game. Kevin, what's going on? Welcome up to the stage, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Am I audible? Okay. GM. So, Kalio, I have a question. As we are talking about the sentiments shifting within an hour. So, last time I remember you were very bullish on NFTs and you predicted that the bulls will start when penguins will start popping up, and it went really nice. So, what sentiments you see? I've been following NFT just after you. My first NFT was the Wonky Stonks. I never cared for NFTs. So, I remember back in 2022, you predicted that NFTs are not like the coins you wish you buy and it will pump after a month. It will pump like 50 to 50x or 100x. So you have to be patient. I remember someone dumped and you have commented on. As per the sentiments, I just want to ask. So, what the sentiments you are forming from now
Well,
as the coin market?
Kevin,
Yes.
I'll start with just pinning this chart that I put up there the other day, right? So I tweeted
Mhm.
this out, and I think it's important. Um, and here's the perspective that I'm looking at by sharing this chart, right? So that's the CryptoPunks chart, and that is in terms of ETH. And when you look at the CryptoPunks chart, it's almost like looking at the Bitcoin chart to me, not necessarily the price comparisons, et cetera, the structural differences, but like punks are the Bitcoin of NFTs. I don't care now that there are such a thing as ordinals, etc. That there are Bitcoin NFTs. Bitcoin NFTs do not have the precedent that punks do. They do not have the weight as far as the overall impact on the sentiment of the market right now that punks do. So I think it's important to look at a top-down approach, right? And when I look at that punks chart, man, dude, that thing looks so primed for a reversal. It's not even funny. It started to break out from a super high time frame downtrend. That flag right there just looks incredibly bullish, bro. It looks like it wants to set higher to me. So when I look at that, and I look at what we've seen as far as a few other bullish catalysts that have happened recently across the marketplace, like one, Gordon Goner making some of those flashy purchases on some of the big name NFT projects. was a big deal. Whether or not it really drove tons of volume immediately, it was a confidence shift, right? When you have somebody in that type of a position making those type of purchases, right? Like right now, that is all the market's looking for. When you're seeing the coins trending higher in price, there's an overall confidence in the crypto market that is starting to return. And right now, NFTs, I feel like, have been a laggard. And they were when you look at last cycle as well, right? Like the NFTs were not what necessarily led the way. So when I look at different things like that aligning, and then when I look at things like you've got these stimulus, different forms of stimulus that have been hitting the NFT community recently, like, the meme airdrop. You've got, from the Captain's Project, you've got Blur airdrop coming up. You've got several other things. I think there are a couple airdrops on Solana right now that are coming up as well. So you've got all these different things that are going to be different catalysts that are starting to drive some type of momentum shift back into the NFT space. And I really think right now it's just a matter of time before you see major volume returning. And when major volume returns, here's how it works. Again, it starts at some of these, you've got a few collections. Maybe it's Pudgies, maybe it's Punks, maybe it's Apes, maybe it's Checks or Opepin. Some of these that right now have been flashier in the spotlight that end up leading the way, it trickles down. And eventually it just becomes FOMO into every single project that has maintained relevancy throughout the bear market and that has been putting in work. And I really think that's the roadmap that's kind of ahead of us right now as far as what to expect, at least what I expect moving forward. So yes, like I'm incredibly bullish, man. I think that there's a lot of upside right now because again, when volume returns, it does not take much to move a lot of these projects that have been sitting here, kind of dormant volume wise for a while, right? Like, so I'm pretty hyped, man. I mean, I'm sorry for going down that whole rabbit hole, but that's kind of my current take.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, I have one more question, Kali, if you don't mind. The new retailers will be FOMOing when the volume will kick in. So actually, let's talk about the example of Wonky Stonks. We have seen the organic growth. Only the committees were there, which were come from zero frame into we are having now point. Recently, we have visited point two ETH flow. As per USD, we were previous December high. So, what you recommend? Suppose I'm entering new as a retailer, what should I look after? It has been always a concern. People come and scam the newcomers, and they give the price there, and they run
Well,
after
so
them.
Kevin, are you asking more from a safety perspective? What should you look for, or what
Yeah,
should you look?
yeah. Safety
I mean,
purpose.
I
Uh,
think the safety perspective, the same thing as always, right? Like nothing has changed. And I do think it's important to bring up the safety perspective because, bro, we harped on this back in January. One of the unfortunate things that happens whenever you start to get the market trending in the right direction is that you do have some FOMO that ends up, happening, and you get all these wallets that have been sitting on their asses for months and year plus that all of a sudden they're like, oh shoot, the NFT place is alive again. And are they seasoned vets as far as trading? No, maybe they've just made a few trades before and they've just kind of sat on their bags and they see some comment in a section about a free mint or something like, I know one thing that got a buddy of mine that got involved in the space kind of quietly. He was a big celebrity dude, and he and I were DMing. It was actually like AB de Villiers. He told me back in the day he had like a few $100,000 worth of NFTs at the end of 2022. He actually had a decent amount of stonks too, and he had some pudgies, some apes, etc. Well, he saw some link or some post from an account that looked really legit on Twitter as far as, hey, now is the time to claim your free igloo. You've got like 1 day to do it. So they put in some sense of urgency in there to drive you to do something. And it sounds like something, hey, here's a collection that I have that, I want to get my igloo before it's too late. So they just go, accept some type of transaction and, go for it. And boom, next thing you know, you get wiped clean of your NFTs. So I think a couple things that are important. One, It probably is smart not to be trading or keeping your assets on a hot wallet that you're trading with or minting with. Like, having a minting specific wallet, and that, is like, it's one extra step, but it is a decent safety precaution if that's something you're worried about. Another one is just be patient, man. Like, again, FOMO, it's really easy to get in this space, but you want to do all the double checks on all verified accounts, make sure that you've got mutuals, follow them, do go through all the official channels and just be patient. So I think that's my take. Crow, what's going on?
That's great advice. Multiple wallets, security. Can I make a merch request, if you don't mind?
A merch request. Let's hear it.
Some Wonky Stonk shirt cuffs. What do you think?
So, Wonky Stonks shirts cuffs, bro. That is incredibly specific. So what's a very niche. I can ask Kondo about it because I think it's one of those type things where, especially by going through the Shopify store, the items, they're basically made and then drop shipped after, right? Like, so we don't have any excess inventory. So that might be something that you could do, but just break it down for me. Why, bro?
I was at Goodwill last weekend and I found this like super cool like 70s style shirt, and I need cuffs for it. So I figured Wonky cuffs would be the best.
Fair enough. Excuse me. Fair enough, man. I'll put in the request to Hondo. Eddie, what's up, man? Welcome up to the stage.
Rest in peace, your voice right there, bro.
No, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry for the coughing on.
No, you're good, dude. I have this thing where every single day I choke while drinking water, so I totally get it.
Yeah, no, that definitely happened right there. I think it's one of those things, like, you try to chug it down quickly because you're talking in the middle of it, and yeah. So
yeah, no, I totally get it. Now I will say, couple things. One, you mentioned the punks. A lot of people hear that and they're like, well, I don't have $100,000 to go ahead and drop on a punk right now. Surprise, you don't need it. You don't need $100,000. You could actually, there's a couple options. I think, well, first off, if you want to just buy an NFT outright, you could get V1 punks, which are like 5 ETH. I think they're actually closer to 4 right now. And they tend to have they basically have a slightly mimicked but slightly exaggerated price movement as compared to the punks, which the whole story, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, the punks that everyone knows that are worth 100 grand, those are actually V2 punks. There was a whole punks contract that was launched before the current punks by Larva Labs. It was a issue ridden contract, so they kind of launched the current famous punks as like the fix, but the original ones were eventually wrapped and became tradable. So they're now known as V1 punks. So they're legit, and they are recognized by Yuga, which now owns like their IP and whatnot. So yeah, so like all that to say, they're legit, and they trade around like 4 ETH. And if punks go to 100, they'll probably go to like 10 to 15, stuff like that. So like that's kind of how much they mimic, or that's the rate at which they mimic. So you could do that. Or you could go and get like blend loans, which, take that as you will. I think there's still very, very low rates that you need to pay in order to work on a blend loan. Those things are still kind of ridiculous because they're incentivized, but such is the market. So that's pretty wild. But yeah, there's different ways that you could take advantage of that. Don't just look at the price and say, "Oh, I can't trade punks." If you want to, there are ways to do so that aren't just buying a punk outright. So that's cool. A couple other things. Two on Blur, like on the Blur point. Blur is their airdrop is on, I think, Tuesday, for their, what's it called, round 2 basically, and cool. Excited for it. Will say a couple things on that. That they were one of the quickest shippers of product up until about May. I think May 1st was when they launched Blend, and then they did nothing since Blend. So you could assume that the reason why they did nothing since Blend, which was, again, I believe May 1st, was because, well, they were just doing stuff and it's finished and it's ready to go, but they're launching it on Tuesday because they wanted to launch it at the exact same time that they launched the remainder of their token to try and depress the level of selling pressure. Because the reality is, what probably happened is a lot of insiders or market makers who are about to unlock a lot of tokens likely have done what they can to seed the market and make it pump the price in anticipation of this drop. So it went from, I think, 17 cents to roughly 50 cents right before a massive unlock. So that's a little telling. But it's also fairly telling that there's probably good stuff coming. Like, it's probably going to be a very good product launch that they have coming on Tuesday. I would expect one, maybe two pretty serious launches of quote unquote product, probably in the NFT fi sphere. So things that will make you lock up more ETH on their platform. So we'll see exactly what they do, but I expect it to be fairly solid. And I've got some ETH sitting on Blur just waiting to use it. Although I would recommend, normally people get overhyped about these things and don't know at all how to use them. And also will, because they're incentivized, generally the activity itself is not really very valuable. So, like, for example, blend loans are not valuable at all. Like, you get basically, as a lender, you're not making your money on the loans. You're making your money, if any, off of the token airdrop. So I would be hesitant about participating in whatever mechanisms they put out, but I'm fascinated by it. And outside of that, yeah, so just like we'll say, if you're curious about Blur, I probably would not be buying the token right now. I feel like much of that upside has already been gained. We're gonna have a massive probably sell off in the coming few days or weeks. At least, yeah, that's why I anticipate. And I will know, I didn't know this. Apparently the team's been sending like 48 million Blur to Coinbase or something like that every month, and that's for distributions among investors and team members and stuff like that. That's like 18 to 20 million dollars a month that they've been sending. I didn't know this, but that's kind of hilarious. And yeah, the last thing, the oh my god, crap, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, you were talking about like being super bullish. I'm a little tepid. Like, I'm generally bullish. I think the bottoms are in, and I think that's great. But I'm tepid on, possibly a pullback overall. But regardless of what you think, right? Like, if you think the market's going to be bearish, your market's going to be bullish. And this also relates to the punks. Generally, and this is a general rule, because like you can yell at me on specifics here and I will concede them, but generally, as the price of a chain goes up, so too do the best assets on that chain. So, for example, or like, especially more representative. So when you think of ETH and you think of like what is an NFT on ETH, your mind first goes to punks and then probably goes to apes and stuff like that. Regardless of what you think of the quality, like, I don't really like apes at all, but the reality is they're one of the bigger ones on ETH. And punks, I do like. I think they're kind of cool. And they, because they're the first thing that you think of when you think of that chain, as ETH goes up, so too does the price of those assets. On Sol, right? On Sol, what's the first NFT you think of when you think of the Solana NFT? Probably the Mad Lads, maybe the Claynosaurs, maybe a few others, but probably the Mad Lads. It's unsurprising that as Sol has tripled, Mad Lads have doubled, if not more. Like, that's a massive, massive increase in dollar value. And then if you look at other chains, like Bitcoin, eventually is likely going to have the exact same deal, probably with things like OMB or Taproot Wizards whenever that does launch. Things that you think of, like, what is the NFT when you associate with that chain? That's likely going to be the one that increases in the base asset value as the base asset also increases. So it's things like this that would probably do you well to prep for, and just things that I'm watching closely. I'm watching other things closely too, like flooring protocol and whatnot. But for just the things and to keep things tight, some of the stuff that's on my mind.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, so I think that's one thing to take into consideration. There are, it all depends on your approach for something, right? Like, you brought up the punks and the V1 punks as a potential opportunity for some type of exposure. There's some people that will say something similar to like same type of thing when you're talking about ecosystems and you're talking about like little pudgies to pudgies, etc. But, again, I think the main point that I had earlier was primarily, just looking at the ecosystem as a whole and about how punks being bullish is bullish for the entire ecosystem, right? Where there is a trickle down effect of confidence, where you see major volume at the top, it ends up trickling down. Like it's that simple. So, as long as you are involved in something that, for whatever reason you've got conviction in it for, right? Like there, I think, is a chance, if you were right for whatever your thesis is, there's going to be more volume that ends up flowing back into the space as a whole. So, it's not going to be something I don't want to like put this and say, hey, man, it happened overnight. This is something that happens. It takes a little bit of time, but by the time it finally does happen, like things happen fast, right? So I'm not sure when exactly that major volume shift is coming, but I do think that we are heading in that direction. Ellis, what's up, man?
Yo, what up? What up? Good afternoon, man. I was just I think it's pretty bullish. One, people got their eyeballs burnt out. Okay, we're past the moon at that point. We're getting closer to the sun. That's bullish. How you're putting free, other people are like putting free underneath like sell bots. I just think that mindset's super super bullish. Even though some people hate it, but I don't know. I just think this space is crazy, and if it's not crazy enough, then it's not gonna like go up, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, that's fair, man. it's a fair comment. Like I I don't know. I think the big thing right now, though, is that it's easy in the NFT space to sit there when you see a lot of these different meme coins and stuff that have been taking off. I really think the rotation back into NFTs is closer than what you may see on the timeline still, right? Like, and again, it's one of those things where by the time you may notice it, right? Like a lot of these collections, I think, are slowly going to grind higher for, a little bit before you really see just these vertical legs. And a slow grind higher, you might end up at like a 2x from whatever the price of the collection that you're looking at right now is. Before you like, dude, I'm irritated. Like on the Avalanche side, I wanted to snag a bunch of Dokios, and like, of course, like over the course of the past 24 hours, they've doubled. Like, pisses me off, but it is what it is, right? Like stuff like that can happen. You never know when or what that catalyst can be. But again, I don't know. Just my belief. I think it's coming. So we'll see. Like it's exciting one way or the other, man. And I I think that at the end of the day, it's just about maintaining that presence to be able to, it's about maintaining the presence to be able to stay relevant when that time does come. So yeah, like I'm hyped. It's closer than you think, and by the time you get when it does get here, man, rather than like, I mean, heck, even having 100 people in this space right now, pretty wild, right? When we look back just a couple months ago, there were 30 something people that would be attending these spaces. So that number is already doubled, tripled, and I think that you're going to continue to see that progression, right? Like when the NFT marketplace is really taking off, I mean, heck, this space will have a few hundred people in it, just casually in here. And it just is, it's something that, you see some of these signs, you see the interest coming back. It's, like, I don't think that it requires as much patience at this point as some people may think. We're coming closer to that finish line of finally being able to have some fun again. So enjoy the piece is my my biggest recommendation right now, right? Like there's some piece right now, enjoy it while it lasts because whatever things do take off, man, it's fun, but it's also very hectic.
Yo, did you see Rooster won that karate combat? He was in like the top 10.
No way, I didn't see that.
I think he won like $2,500 from that.
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
Roosters had a dub this year just across the board.
Yep.
I feel like he's just been lucky at winning a bunch of these type of things. So, Kevin, what's up, man?
Okay.
I can't hear you, sir. But I do want to bring up one other thing. So, like I'm looking at a bunch of the different things that have been happening. Eddie, outside of the Blur airdrop, what other NFT specific, Blur and Meme Man brought up those two, but aren't there a couple others on the Solana side that I'm forgetting?
I mean, on Solana, I know that the main one that a lot of people are farming is they're trying to farm Jupiter. That's more of just like a general swap of sorts, I believe. So like swapping between shitcoins or swapping between Solana alts, stuff like that. So a lot of people are hard farming Jupiter. I, I really get concerned when I see a lot of people farming something because it just means like it's not alpha, it's just like everyone's doing it. It's a minimum bar. Yeah, you'll make money, but the question then becomes like, are you just going to lose more money in the process off of like bad trades or whatever? You kind of, in my opinion, you want to go for one-sided bets where the likelihood that you're going to make money is very strongly heavier than that. I think a lot of people are also speculating. It might not even be speculation. It might just be outright. I think on the Mad Lads, if you're not a U.S. citizen, you'll be able to get access to airdrops of some sort. I think whether that's for their own products or via other ones, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not like super into that eco, but there is, I believe, pretty strong speculation around Mad Lads airdrops, which is part of the narrative behind their price rocketing. So there's that. And I would say like also just frankly, VPNs go a long way. And I'm not entirely convinced that like you really have anything to lose if you're a U.S. citizen. But we'll see. I think I'm not entirely sure one way or the other as to how that plays out legally. But anyway, so that's some of the stuff that's going on there. I know Jupiter. I know Mad Lads have stuff going on. I think Pith, but I don't really know what's going on with Pith, like PYTH, is something that a lot of people have been tracking. I personally have not been playing around with much of that. I've just been playing around Flooring Protocol, which is more of a liquidity mining thing. So that's like, for example, it's all ETH, right? I'll make a liquidity pool, and I'm hoping you have to understand what a liquidity pool is. Not saying you're stupid if you don't, but you need to. And if you're going to engage in it, you have to study it. But so you'd have to understand what a liquidity pool is, and you can make them for a bunch of different collections. So, for example, I like the Sappy Seals. I'll make a liquidity pool of Sappy Seals where it basically fractionalizes them, makes them into a token that's much more liquidity available, I guess, or it's a million mu tokens for each seal. So I just pair that against ETH, and there you go. You have like a Uniswap pool. And for doing so, you're rewarded with not only the real fees of providing liquidity pool, but also the protocol, Flooring Protocol, is distributing their token via liquidity mining. So for providing liquidity via their platform, you are rewarded with FLC. And they're also doing concurrent incentivization programs to try and make people buy FLC, which the idea is make people buy FLC so FLC retains value while still being concurrently sold off pretty heavily by farmers such as myself. And I would say like it is a fascinating mechanism. And if you know what you're doing, you can make a lot of money. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to pay a lot of money in gas fees. On my best days, I'll make like, and I, again, full disclosure, I have actually multiple five figures. Like I have a lot of money in this. Multiple five figures locked up not locked up. It's freely accessible, but in this protocol. and I'm earning anywhere between like $200 to $500 a day in terms of FLC. And then depending on gas fees at the time or what I'm thinking, whatever, I'll just go to Uniswap, swap it into ETH, and that's how I'm that's how I'm earning off of it. But I'm also like very interested to see what they do, because so again, they're going to make a shorting protocol, and I really think shorting is going to be very helpful to the NFT health, like market health. I genuinely think it would be like very, very helpful, considering there's so much long pressure and not that much short pressure. So any protocol that is instituting shorting and does it right, I think will actually be a profitable protocol. So I'm interested in FLC as a token, but then again, I'm also very, very interested to see what Blur launches in the coming week, because that might, I mean, if they're launching their own shorting protocol, that might fuck with FLC. So it's stuff like that that I'm keeping in mind. But yeah, there's like a bunch of farming ops, and I will also say there's other ones too. Like one of the ones that I needed to do, or there's two that I need to take a look at Venom. I've been saying that for months, and I just haven't gotten around to doing it. Venom was a new L1, I believe, which there's going to be another Solana. There's going to be like another protocol that goes from 0 to 3 billion. It's going to happen. It's just a question of which one, not when. So just keeping your eyes and ears open to them. Venom was one that I'm fascinated by, in part because I think they got like $1 billion of funding from the Saudis, so that one's probably going to have some pretty serious narratives that go around it. But also, things like not even huge protocols, but things like, what is it called? Arkham Intelligence, I think, has another airdrop that's coming. They already had one, and I think that was worth a couple $1,000s. And I believe that they're going to have another, and I'm fascinated by their business model. So yeah, just keep your ears and eyes open. And I just like, it's one of those things where when it comes to farming these things, if everyone's talking about it, it's likely not the best move. But you do want a couple people talking about it, and kind of like in proportion to how much funding / how big it is. If like, if now I'm going to talk in like weird hypotheticals, but on Venom, if you see like 3 or 4 posts a day, that's probably fine, right? If you saw like 50 posts a day, you're probably like, all right, this is being overfarmed. On something like Arkham, if you see a post every other day or every 2-3 days, that's probably like, for the size of it, probably a good size for it to be farmed and still be a valuable airdrop. So stuff like that, that's kind of how I think about things, and some of the stuff I've been looking at.
Appreciate that, man. It's a lot of alpha. And yeah, one other one that I pinned up there that I know I've been looking forward to is the hyperspace AVAX one, which, you've seen a decent amount of movement across some of the AVAX NFTs recently, where, yeah, like they've got some type of, I'm not sure what the value of the AVAX that they got from Ava Labs were, but they got some type of grant. And basically what that grant does is, over the next few months, they're going to have several seasons, and the points are going to be paid out, every 2 to 4 weeks is what I was told. And basically those points translate back to, physical AVAX, and the conversion rate, I think they have a set amount of AVAX for each season. So, earlier seasons, you'll probably end up getting higher amounts than you do later seasons, just because there's going to be more competition as more people end up coming in. So I think that's something that'll be interesting to keep track of. We'll know a lot more about that one in another week as well. But point being, there are a lot of opportunities out there like this that are bringing attention back to the NFT marketplace.
Also, I got a crazy one for you. This is one I'm still up in the air on if I can take advantage of this. I really want to, but I'm very busy today and very busy this weekend. Like, when I've been on mute, I've literally been reading a case. So if you're in the New York City area, tonight there is an event in Brooklyn. It's an artist thing. It's like Birkenbags is one of the artists, and the other is Chainsy. Chainsy has made a collection called the bears. Oh my God, why am I blanking? Anyway, they have a collection of like bears on Solana. If you talk in the Solana spaces or look at any of the Solanians, That's a fun word. Or Solana soy boys. A couple of them will be wearing these like bear marketers. That's what they're called. And that has a floor of like 200 something SOL. It's progressively grown over time. It's consistently been like one of the more art focused collectives, but they're cultural, so people like them. And they have like the bear marketers are their lead collection, I think, at like 200 something SOL, but they do have a secondary collection, and those are called the sketchies. So it's like the same bears with the same artist, but just their creation style is done very differently. And their floor is like 60 soulish, something like that. And if you go to New York, again, there's an event, and you could just have to look them up. It's like chain at CHAINSZY or something like that. They're called bear marketers again. If you go and you meet the artist today, and you find him and you ask, I think you can get like there's 100 cards he's giving out tonight, and each one will get you a sketchy, and that's like 60 SOL. So I mean, obviously, it's not the most liquid of markets, and probably have to wait, and also maybe you like it, maybe you actually don't want to sell it, but it is probably like a 30 to 40 SOL minimum thing that you're going to be getting for free for attending an NFT event. And it'd be cool. I think like I like the art. I like the artists. I think they're fun. And a lot of the people there are pretty cool. So you have a good time and walk away with something that's probably worth a bunch of SOL whenever it comes.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate that, dude. That's the thing right now. I'm telling you, the bear markets are about just staying active, looking for some of those on-chain activities. And, hey, bear market may be a little bit extreme right now, but I'm still going to honestly call it the bear market until I think we see some type of new highs. And, like I do think that's coming eventually, right? So, it's just about staying active, looking for those opportunities, kind of enjoying the ride as we get there. And yeah, it's been fun finally having a little bit of fun, but I think there's a lot more to look forward to. So with that said, I do unfortunately have to wrap up, but I appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out today, everybody that came up on stage. Wonky Stonks are inevitable. We'll be back here around the same time, same place. Looking forward to it. Appreciate you guys.